Let's make learning the 2024 D&D rules set easy for you because I've already read the new PHB, so you don't have to. Today we're going to learn about changes to the Barbarian character class. Let's dive in. Now here's the good news about the 2024 Barbarian, and honestly a lot of the 2024 classes, it's mostly improved and more powerful. And as we go through the changes, you're going to see why. Let's start with the first change, and that is to starting equipment. Previously, you had to choose between either an equipment list that was pretty flexible and had several options, or 2d4 times 10 starting gold, for an average starting gold of 50 gold pieces. In the new rules, you choose between either a much more simplified list of starting equipment or 75 gold pieces. Now, I'm almost always going to tell you to choose the gold, and in the new rules, you definitely want to do that. Okay, let's go through the levels. At level 1, the first change you're going to notice is weapon mastery. Barbarians get 2 weapon masteries at first level. Now, weapon mastery is a bigger topic than I'm going to go into in this video, but if you want more information on that, all you have to do is click the link to my video on weapon mastery, and you can learn all about that new rule. But the real big change that happens at first level is the changes they've made to rage. And I have to say, all of these are improvements. What they've basically done is made it a lot easier to sustain your rage over a longer period of time. In the previous edition of rules, rage lasted for 1 minute. However, in order to keep it going, you had to either attack a hostile creature or take damage every single round. It also ended if you got knocked unconscious or if you used a bonus action to willingly end it. What they've done in the new rules is they've turned that on its head. Now, your rage only lasts by default for 1 round. However, you can keep your rage going for another round if you attack a hostile creature, if you force another creature to make a saving throw, or, and this is the key, if you use a bonus action to maintain it, meaning you don't even have to be in combat, you can just use a bonus action every round to keep yourself raging. And if you do this, you can extend it for up to a 10-minute duration, meaning you could potentially use the same rage for multiple combats. Now, the only downside is now it ends when you are incapacitated rather than unconscious, which means there's lots of other ways to end a barbarian's rage, like casting Tasha's hideous laughter on them. Now, at second level, we only see one small change to the new barbarian, and that is in the way you can use danger sense. And this one is also an upgrade. In the previous rules, you couldn't use danger sense if you were blinded, deafened, or incapacitated. But in the new rules, they removed the blinded and deafened limitation, so now the only time you can't use it is if you're incapacitated. At third level, we're going to see 2 major changes. The first is in the subclasses. We're going to see some subclasses that have been rewritten and replaced in the new PHB, and then there's going to be some that are brand new. Now, going through all 4 of the new subclasses that they put in the new PHB is too much for one video. So if you don't want to miss out on my breakdowns of each one of those, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you'll get notified when I release those videos. The other change at level 3 is a pretty big one, and that is regarding the feature Primal Knowledge. Now, Primal Knowledge was an optional barbarian feature from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything under the old rules. So you may have had tables you played at where that rule wasn't in effect and you didn't have access to this. What it allowed you to do was basically just pick up an extra barbarian class skill at levels 3 and 10. Under the new rules, Primal Knowledge is a core feature of the barbarian class. Everyone is going to get access to it. But it has changed, and they improved this as well. You still get an extra barbarian class skill at level 3, but you no longer get one at level 10. However, what they replaced it with is even better. Now when you gain this feature at level 3, you gain the ability, when you are raging, to replace the ability score you'd normally use for certain skills with strength, which for a barbarian is huge. And you can do this with 5 skills: acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, and survival. Now, personally, I love the idea of a barbarian being able to use strength for acrobatics or intimidation or survival when they're raging. That makes sense because you can muscle your way through an acrobatic movement. You can use your muscles to intimidate somebody when you're enraged. And you could maybe just gut out some survival checks through pure muscle and grit. But I gotta be honest with you. The other 2, I think it's kind of stupid. I don't know what Wizards was thinking with this, but letting a barbarian use strength to increase their abilities of perception or stealth is just dumb. Personally, I'm not going to apply strength to those two skills at my table because it just doesn't make any sense. But the other ones are still pretty cool. And overall, I really like this rule change. Now at level 4, the only thing that's changed is we're going to get another weapon mastery to give us a total of 3. And we're going to get an ASI just like we did before, but just note that the feat system has changed in the 2024 rule set, and I'll be making videos to cover that as well. So again, if you don't want to miss out on those, just hit that subscribe button. All right, we don't actually see any changes in levels 5 and 6, and even at level 7, there's just some very minor changes. You'll notice as part of Feral Instinct, they've removed the language that says the barbarian can act when surprised. That's not actually a change to this feature so much as it's reflecting a change to the surprise rules, which in the new edition don't prevent you from acting anyway. The other change we're going to see at level 7 is Feral Pounce, which was an optional feature that was in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, is now a core barbarian class feature, meaning everybody's going to have access to it. Okay, at 9th level we see the next big change to the barbarian class, and that is replacing the feature Brutal Critical with Brutal Strike. Now I know some people are upset about this because they liked the way Brutal Critical worked under the old rules, but I'm going to actually show you why Brutal Strike is a huge upgrade. Under the old rules, when you got Brutal Critical at 9th level, it gave you an extra die when you did a critical hit. Then at 13th level, that upgraded to 2 extra dice, and at 17th level, you got 3 extra dice. People really liked this because when a barbarian was using a weapon like, say, a great axe with a big D12 damage die, this meant at 17th level, you got 5d12 base damage when you did a critical hit. But the thing is, Brutal Strike actually does more damage. The way it works in the new rules is you have to be using Reckless Attack to use it, which means you're going to get advantage on all of your attacks. But once per round, you can choose one of those attacks, and instead of getting advantage, you're just going to roll a straight attack roll. When you hit with it, though, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to be able to apply an effect to the attack. And you get to choose between Forceful Blow, which is going to drive your enemy back 15 feet and then let you immediately close with them, or Hamstring Blow, which is going to reduce your opponent's speed by 15 feet per round until your next turn. But the other thing that's going to happen when you hit with a Brutal Strike is you're going to do an extra 1d10 points of damage. And this is why it's so much better than Brutal Critical. Because with Brutal Critical, you only got the extra damage when you hit with a critical hit, which doesn't happen that often. But with Brutal Strike, you're going to be able to do that extra 1d10 every single round. On top of that, you still get that extra damage when you do a critical hit. And because when you critical, all of your damage dice are doubled, that means Brutal Strike is going to add 2d10 damage on a critical hit. Meaning at 9th level, it's already giving you as much critical damage as you were getting at 13th level from Brutal Critical. Okay, now let's talk about what happens at 10th level. Just a couple of minor things. Number 1, we're going to get our 4th and final weapon mastery. The other thing is just more of a reminder, we're not going to get another barbarian skill from Primal Knowledge because we got that awesome strength-based feature from it earlier. At 11th level, we see our next change, and this is yet another upgrade, and that is to our feature, Relentless Rage. Now, it's mostly going to work the way it did before. If you're reduced to 0 hit points or fewer, you're going to be able to make a Constitution saving throw, and if you succeed, you're going to be able to stay up and keep fighting. The difference is, under the old rules, when we did that, our hit points were set at 1. Under the new rules, when you succeed on the con save, your hit points are going to be set at your Barbarian level times 2. That means at 20th level, when you use Relentless Rage, you're going to get 40 hit points back. Now, considering that a high-level Barbarian is probably going to be able to pass Relentless Rage con saves 3 times before they fail, that's an extra 120 hit points. And if you factor in that you're raging and you're resistant to most of the damage you're going to take, functionally, that's like getting an extra 240 hit points. That is insane. Okay, the next change is at 13th level. We're going to replace our Brutal Critical upgrade with a Brutal Strike upgrade. it's going to give us 2 more options for effects we can apply to the attack. One of them is staggering blow. That's going to take away their attack of opportunity, and it's going to give them disadvantage on the next saving throw they make. The other one is sundering blow, and that's going to make it so the next person other than us to attack them is going to get a +5 to their attack roll. These are both ways to set them up for hits or attacks or spells from other characters. Okay, at level 15, we see our next change, and it is yet again another upgrade, and that is to the feature Persistent Rage. Now with Persistent Rage, our rage is going to last 10 minutes no matter what. But on top of that, they added another effect that's even more powerful. When we enter combat and roll initiative, we can choose once per day to regain all of our expended uses of rage. That means if we wait till our rages are down to 0, we basically get twice the number of rages per day. Okay, now let's talk about level 17. At level 17, we see the final upgrade to Brutal Critical replaced by the final upgrade to Brutal Strike. Under the new rules, it's going to do 2 things. Number 1, it's going to allow us to use 2 of those effects at the same time on the attack we make. I want you to picture this. A high-level barbarian uses their first attack to knock the opponent prone. Then they use their second attack to do a Brutal Strike, and they simultaneously hit them with Forceful Blow, driving them back 15 feet, and Hamstring Blow, reducing their speed by 15. Now when that opponent's turn comes around, all they can do with their movement is get up. And then they either have to attack us from a distance, or if they want to close to melee, they can't attack because they had to use their action to dash. But you might be saying, that's nice, but I'd rather have the additional dice I would have gotten from Brutal Critical. Well, you're going to get something better, because at 17th level, our Brutal Strike gives us 2d10 bonus damage instead of just 1d10, which means when we critical, we get 4d10 bonus damage. Meaning this just outpaces Brutal Critical in every way. Huge upgrade. Okay, the next change we see is at level 19, and this is not so much a change to the class as a change to the other rules in the new system. Instead of getting our final ASI, we get an epic boon. Now, if you're not familiar with them, epic boons were something that was listed in the DMG under the 2014 rules, and they were only applicable to high-level play above level 20. Under the new rule set, everybody can get an epic boon at level 19. And epic boons are powerful, including things like being able to just choose to hit somebody in combat no matter what you rolled. As I said before, I'll be putting out a video in the future on the new feat system and epic boons. All right, now we get to level 20, and there's just one minor change to the Barbarian's capstone feature, Primal Champion. It still does what it used to do. It adds 4 points to our strength and 4 points to our constitution. The only difference now is instead of capping them at 24, it caps them at 25. Okay, now I'm gonna go record all the videos for the Barbarian subclasses. Make sure you hit subscribe if you want to check them out, and happy adventuring.